start?
So, hi guys. This is Kayo. I'm Ashley, and Nika is in the back. Unfortunately, she can't do the presentation today because she's feeling sick. These are our Twitter handles if you want to follow us. Kayo's, Nika's, and mine. And if you could follow us in our LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook pages, that'd be great.
So since we're already speaking about Twitter, I want to ask you guys a question. Raise your hand, please, if you have a device and Twitter that you can use during this presentation. Okay, perfect. So we plan on using Twitter, but we always ask to make sure that people do. So if they don't, we use hand raising. But since you guys do, we'll use it.
Okay, my name's Ashley. I am 16 years old, and I'm from Argentina, and I've been in gin for 5 years.
My name is Caio Regenti. I'm 17. I'm from Brazil. I've been in gin for about two-ish years.
We come from Lincoln in Buenos Aires. Our goals are to reduce the carbon footprint in our school and to inspire some of you to introduce these ideas into your school too. If any of you have done any of these things, it would be great if you could give us any suggestions or something that we can do in our project to make it better.
The global issue we're talking about is climate change, and before we talk about our project itself, I want to give you guys sort of a scientific or a context of what the problem actually is before we start looking at the steps. And so we're going to be talking in terms of what's, whys, and hows. So to actually understand the process itself, what's going on, why is it happening, what's causing it. And before we start,
You actually want to get a quiz.
we want to give you a quiz to check your understanding before we teach you about it.
And
So
if we have time at the end of the presentation, we'll give you a routine.
So you can scan the QR code or type in the link. You can do it on a computer, iPad, phone, whatever it is you want, any device. It's very quick. Yeah? You need a specific app to do it. If you don't have it, you can just type the link in. If you don't have a device, it's not the end of the world. It's okay. It should only take you a few minutes. Once you're done, just look up.
If you're typing it, the URL is case sensitive.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Oh, it's
Jim Rio, I think that's it. 2015. It worked? Yeah. Is it working? Are you guys taking it? What's going on? If you're taking it, raise your hand so I have an idea. Okay. Keep going. Keep going.
Are you done? 1, 2, 3. I'll give it like 2 or 3 more minutes.
Yeah.
Is anyone else done? Or
Yeah.
most of you done?
So I think let's move on now. Yeah. So I mentioned we're going to talk about what's, whys, and hows. The first what is climate change? We hear this buzzword a lot. Politics, science, whatever it is, you're bound to hear climate change at least once a day. And so I'd like to at least explain what it is first. And the big point I want to make here is to distinguish between climate change and global warming. Because this is something I see especially in gym conferences, that people toss around the two words as if they mean the same thing, which they really don't. And we'll get into that. And so the first thing I do when I want to find out what something means is I Google it. Google's definition of climate change is a change in global or regional climate patterns. And when you look at what Google's saying, there's some keywords in here: global or regional, and patterns. So this gives you a sort of a big picture idea. Global or regional, obviously it's not this one city, it's this place, it's this country. And patterns, it's not necessarily what's happening now, it's what's happening in the long picture. So for example, if it's raining and I go outside and I say, oh, it's raining, that's the weather right now. But if I say, oh, it's raining, then I write it down, and then I write it down for the next 2 years, and then I plot that down and I look at what the overall trend is, that's climate. That's something that's a long-term pattern that we can observe, and it's big. And so whether it's immediate, climate is long-term.
So now to give you a more visual idea of what it looks like, I want to
Yeah, because a lot of times we're speaking about what's happening, but we don't actually see it. And so the big point with this is that climate change is the change in all these different parts of our climate. And it's not something theoretical, it's something we can see. And so that's what we want to show you here. For example, this is sea ice. It's a picture of the sea ice minimum every year since 1979 to right now. And so let's just watch as it gradually shrinks.
So noticing that in the last years it's getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah, not only is it shrinking, but the rate that it's shrinking at is increasing.
The last one.
The last one, yeah. And global temperature, this is global warming. This is what you always hear when we talk about climate change. This one, I'll just let you watch. You can very much tell how much it's changing. It starts slowly, but it really starts to pick up. If it's unclear, so darker blues are colder areas, and brighter reds or stronger reds are places that have changed the most in temperature. So we're in 1960s right now. It still looks like it's just a little bit all over the place, but just wait. Now we're in the 80s, and it starts to get yellower and yellower. 90s. Seeing some orange up here. 2000s. 2010. And this is where we are last year. They haven't done this for this year yet. But as you can see, climate change is this. It's just things we measure. It's these data points that we can see them changing over time. And so the point I want to make with global warming and climate change is the difference. We talked about how climate change could be rainfall changing over a period of years. Global warming is just one small part of climate change, and it's one thing that's changing. And there's other things that are changing because of it, but all of those fall under the umbrella of climate change. And so if we can't use the two terms interchangeably, because one includes the other, but they're not both inclusive. And the next part, what's causing it? So why is it that the climate is changing? And the part I want you guys to understand here is the greenhouse effect and the factors contributing to it. You'll hear this word thrown around a lot, and so I want to explain it. So greenhouse effect is caused by greenhouse gases. I brought some molecules here today. This is water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, also known as car farts, nitrous oxide, ozone, and the fluorocarbons. It's a mouthful, but they're a group of different gas molecules. This is just one of them. I don't know what it's called. The name is like 30 letters in it. And so why these gases are special is because they have this interesting property. So when sunlight, let's go to the next picture. The next one.
You mean
Yeah, when the light is coming from the sun, it has to go through our atmosphere, right? And so these are like, they're just sitting in the atmosphere. And these, they don't really care about the sunlight. It just goes straight through. And then it gets to the earth, and then the earth releases its own energy outwards. But what happens is when this energy coming from the earth gets to these molecules, it absorbs this energy, and then it retransmits it in all directions. So you can imagine, it's just right here. Sunlight comes through, then Earth light goes back, gets absorbed, and then just goes here, 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 here. And since it's random directions, some of those directions are going to be back to the Earth. And this is going to make it hotter, right? Because some of this heat's going to get sort of trapped. And this is why we call it the greenhouse effect, because it makes it slightly hotter. But here's the main point. The greenhouse effect is natural. If the greenhouse effect did not exist, we would all die, because it would be way too cold for us. The greenhouse effect is essential to life. And so the question is raised, why is it that there's so much controversy about it? And the main reason for that is that the level of some of these greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide, has been increasing over the past, say, 150 years. This graph right here is of the carbon dioxide concentration in parts per million in our atmosphere versus the years before today. So 0 is today, 50,000 is 50,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, and this line is the amount of carbon dioxide. So this is way, way far behind. We'll start at about 450,000 years ago. And you can see it's just going down, up, down, up. It's sort of fluctuating, fluctuating, fluctuating. And then we get to about where we are, woo! It just goes completely vertically upwards. And the reason why I like this graph is because it shows you how absurd it is, how unnatural what we're doing is, how we're really changing it past any point that's completely acceptable for our living conditions. And so the reason why they show 1950 is because this is 1950. Around here is 1870. And if you know like history, that's about where the Industrial Revolution first began. And when we started to burn fossil fuels because we needed more energy to do different things. And that's when our emissions really started. Just the last point I want to make on this graph is that this line right here, it reads, for 650,000 years, atmospheric carbon dioxide had never been above this line. So in all these fluctuations, it had never gone above it. And this line is right above the 300 parts per million. So we not only went past it before 1950, we've gone up to 401 today. I checked the counter. So it was never past 300 for the last 650,000 years. And we not only went past 300, we've got 100 more. And we're going faster and faster and faster every single day. So this is why it's a big deal, because this one right here, we're increasing the amount of it in our atmosphere, and it's making the greenhouse effect stronger.
You can now take out your devices again and open up Twitter. And if you could tweet out, it's just a reflection on what we've been teaching you. Hashtag AL in your school, hashtag climate change, something new I learned is, and complete the sentence.
But if we said it too quickly, the hashtags are AEL Green Your School. That's sort of for our school, Asociación Escuelas Lincoln, and Green Your School is our project. And the second hashtag is climate change. This is a global one. We like to put it in because it connects us with a bigger audience. Who's done? Raise your hand. Yeah, that's one. Cool.
Yep.
It's AEL Green Your School and hashtag climate change. And the prompt is something new I learned is ... It can be whatever.
So when you guys are done, please like put down your devices.
Let's take about 2 more minutes, 1 minute. We got to keep going. Time is limited. Okay, let's keep going. The next what is what happens next? Why should we care that we're completely increasing the amount of greenhouse gases? So the consequences of climate change. I put this picture here. It's a general picture, but the idea this picture is supposed to give you is natural disasters. The Earth's climate system is a very complex one. It's made up of all these little factors, and to the Earth and to the Earth's climate, we're just ants basically. We're these tiny little things that the Earth doesn't care about. So to us, it seems like we're changing carbon dioxide by this amount, but the effect that it has is actually very, very big because we're so small, and it can lead to disasters like floods, droughts, wildfires, hurricanes, all these different things are caused just because we're making the Earth a little bit warmer here, or we're melting some ice here, and the consequence really is just that these things are going to continue changing, and they're continue escalating, and we're going to get more natural disasters, more natural disasters. For example, just a personal story, I went to a community service trip recently, and it's my fourth time going to the city, and I know that the trip there is entirely just flat roads all around. And then at one point I look out the window and I'm looking at what to me seems like a pond, and I'm on a bridge. And then about 5 minutes later I realize it's not a pond, it's just floods. And all these farms have just been completely devastated for like 10 kilometers because of climate change, because we're pumping in carbon dioxide. The nicest part of this is that we can actually do something about it. And so these are going to be some ways to alleviate the enhanced greenhouse effect. We like to break it up into two parts, excuse me. The first part is awareness. A lot of people don't really, they know climate change is a problem, but they don't understand the severity of it. And this is why governments are allowed to just do whatever they want, because people don't understand what they're doing. And so awareness is basically, that's what we're doing here. We're teaching people about it. It's making people angry, making people reject it, that the companies and governments can do this. And the second part is physical things you can actually do to lower your emissions. It's reduction. And this is what our project is really about, and we're going to go into that now.
So there's actually a point to us teaching you about climate change, and that is that we want to now talk to you about what we're actually doing about it in our own school. And we split it up into 3 parts, which is the reduction of paper, of energy, and of meat consumption.
The reason why we need to reduce paper is because whether or not we use the paper, it's not actually using it that's the problem. It's where it comes from. And we always know that we're killing trees when we use paper. But the problem is when we kill trees, even if we reforest, it's still a big problem for 2 reasons. The first reason is that trees are they absorb carbon dioxide. They make the levels actually go down. And so if we have less trees, they're going to be able to absorb less. And the second thing is that when we cut them down, and if we burn them or if we leave them to rot, they're going to emit carbon dioxide. So the actual process of deforestation isn't just bad because we're killing the trees and ruining our biodiversity, but also because we're enhancing the greenhouse effect. So using paper, less deforestation. Using less paper, excuse me, less deforestation.
So our goal is to reduce the paper usage in our school. And we want to do it in 4 different parts. But first we need to replace printers, because all our printers you can use them whenever you want, however you want to use them. You can print as much as you want. We want to put pins on the printers so that if you are printing something, it's counting how many pages you've actually printed. And to make people conscious that printing double-sided is actually a good thing and that people do it. We also want to use technology wisely. A lot of our teachers use Google Drive and Edmodo, but many others don't. So they don't know how to use them, and they're not comfortable in using them. And make Kindle something that the students can use from the library instead of printing out books.
The second thing we want to reduce is energy. So we're not just reducing energy because bills are expensive. If you think about energy, if I ask you to close your eyes right now and picture energy, the picture you're going to get is probably isn't a piece of coal, but that's what it should be. Because most of our energy comes from burning coal, from burning these fossil fuels that contribute to the greenhouse effect. So it's similar to the paper. If we reduce the consumption, we reduce the production. So if we use less energy, the companies need to give us less energy, and they need to use less fossil fuels to get that energy. So just by reducing energy, we can affect our carbon footprint.
It's something that we use excessively without thinking, and whenever we're leaving the classroom, we just leave the lights on and we don't think twice about it. There are also 4 more steps. The first one is to make people conscious of what they're doing. They have to turn off the lights. They have to stop using the AC every single day for a long period of time, because in Argentina it gets very cold and it gets very warm. There's sometimes in-betweens, but it's not always perfect temperature. So they are blasting the AC that they're in, or blasting the warm air, and they leave them on when they're not even in the classroom. We also want to compare what the information that we're getting from now as to when we actually get this process going in our school and see what we have changed in our school, and to use eco-friendly light bulbs.
So with the compare, we mean sort of bills. We look at how much energy the school's using today, and how much energy the school's using a month from now when we implement our project.
Another part of our project is to reduce the amount of meat we eat in your school. This we want to do it through Meatless Mondays, which is something that's very difficult for us because in Argentina, you may know we eat a lot of meat. It's kind of it's a core of the meals, and it's going to be difficult to get them to stop eating meat every single day. We want to gradually integrate it through a lot of steps, which are going to take a long time. We first want to we've already done this, but talk to the people that are in charge of the school, like the principals, the superintendents, everyone that's in charge of the cafeteria, and see if they're actually for this project, which they are.
The third step is to create a menu because we don't want to exclude people that have special diets. We know that we want them to eat less meat, but we don't want people to be sort of unhealthy because of it. And so there will be these sort of extra circumstances. But we don't want to just, oh, this person has a diet, we can meat. We also want to have good alternatives to the meat. So people get there to see, they don't go like, oh, there's no meat. They'll go like, oh, there's this other thing that doesn't have meat in it, but it's delicious.
This we will do through educating people, like giving them presentations and actually telling them what happens when you eat a lot of meat.
The last step is really just to make it happen, right? You have to talk to the right people and actually do it. You can't just let it just sort of sit there.
This is a great project because it doesn't require any funding. We want to make people can realize what is happening and not actually force it upon them.
The three things we talked about are sort of small bits, especially since we're just people, and what really is causing it is big companies. But we believe that if we take these smaller bits, step by step, and these are all part of larger problems, then we can have a lasting impact on our school. And what to me makes it feel like it's really sustainable is because it's not like we're going to go raise some money and donate to a foundation. We want to change the attitude at our school. So when we leave it, we don't need to keep enforcing it. People are just going to keep doing it because that's what we do at Lincoln. It's good this week because we're short on time.
So this is our presentation. Now we're going to do an activity. We just would like to remind you of our Twitter handle and our Facebook page. If there are any questions or any suggestions,